Welcome to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success with your host, Jane Slack-Smith, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of individuals who've transcended their limitations and achieved extraordinary success.
Hello, it's Jane here again from Exit the Matrix with me, the live book writing experiment that's going on right now. And I want to introduce you to a very good friend of mine, Kyoko. Kyoko is someone who I've probably known now for about 5 years, but honestly, we actually only met publicly face to face like 2 years ago.
Yep.
One of those COVID type of friendships where you get into these groups, and we met through your lovely husband Johan, and we've all got a very common interest in business, etc. But the more and more that I get to talk to you, the more and more I know that we are very aligned in what we think and talk, and even our backgrounds. And I thought, what an interesting person to get a different perspective from what I'm researching at the moment. So welcome, Kyoko.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much. You are always passionate and then energetic. And whenever I talk to you, I get pumped up. So I love talking to you. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, so let me give you a little bit of context here. In this kind of research for the book, I've got the book structured in three sections, and I'm really interested in, because I think, and I get you think this too, is that at the moment there's this unease. There's, society, there's wars going on, there's economic stuff happening. People are feeling a little out of control. And some people have, climbed this career ladder and they realize the ladder's against the wrong wall, or, there's also a lot of people feeling a bit of guilt because they've got everything on paper, but they're still feeling a little uneasy. And I know that you've had some career changes and some, really kind of awareness stages of what's it like to live from your heart and wake up every day and do something you love. So I kind of want to take you back to the beginning and your businesses and how's that developed so far. So take me to the beginning.
So I was a financial advisor for a long time. And that's when I, really started my business. And I became a mortgage broker as well. So, but I sold to those companies, and now I create board games and turning people's IP and ideas and books into games. That's what I love doing.
And so tell me about that kind of point where you were doing these financial and mortgage kind of, assessments and helping people get ahead financially. What was that like? What did you find? Did you find characteristics of how people got in the way of their own wealth? Or, was there trends that you had that you could see when you were talking to people with respect to their financial position?
Definitely, there is a structure. The people with a structure did well. People without the structure, they get, they feel overwhelmed, and, they don't control their money and life, and everything gets a bit chaotic. So definitely I saw a structure. So I help people with creating structures and bank accounts and, monthly recurring savings arrangements and whatever they had to create to get hang of that, routines and, well, not really routines, just that automated, so they don't need to think too much about it, but just creating that habit for them was one aspect of my life as a financial planner. And definitely, I think I specialize in helping Japanese communities in Australia. So Japanese people have a different way of doing or thinking. And also they are the first generation in Australia, not like other like Italians and Greeks, and they have been here for multiple generations. But a lot of Japanese here are the first generations in Australia. So they don't have parents here. And then, so their support system was, they didn't have enough of that. So creating a support systems, creating a safe environment for them to ask questions, that was also what I did. And looking back, a lot of people had this worry about their future. So they knew they had to do something, but they didn't know what, and then I feel recent times similar feeling they're in a different situation, but we know that AI is coming and things are changing after COVID. Life is different, and feel like different era now. We say it used to be a earth era, the different like tangible stuff and money and fame and house and all that stuff, and then now
Following
things
the
are moving. Yeah, now it's a wind, which is more information, connections, friendships. It's not that tangible. You can't touch it, but there is a there.
Yeah.
It's a so era of wind. So I feel there's a shift that's happening as well. So people feel something is changing. It's not the same like 5, 10 years ago, but they just don't know how to adjust. So
And tell me,
yeah.
with your financial, services businesses, and particularly looking after the Japanese community, was that kind of, if we we're going to say that was your heart fire, was that kind of like your burning desire, like this is the job and you just loved it? And did it change for you?
Oh, so I became a financial planner because I wanted to help people. I did a lot of charity work. I had an organization called Ask, Australian Supporting Kids. Did a lot of fundraisers, went to, Africa, Brazil, and I met people that say, I'm sorry, I really want to help, but I don't have money or
Yeah,
I don't have time. So I wanted to help those people. So that's the reason why I became a financial planner.
yeah,
And I loved being one. And I loved it so many years. So that's why, I set myself up to be the go-to Japanese financial planner in Australia. But then I think things shifted and the life shifted. I had kids. And then compliance and the world of financial planning industry changed. And I was spending more time doing all these things than helping clients.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, it's not really aligned to why I became financial planner. I wanted to help people.
Mm,
So I had an internal struggle. And also as a mother, as a woman, I wanted to be with my kids.
yeah,
But, I had a frustration when I had to work. I have a responsibility for my clients as well, my staff, and then my kids need me. So
yeah.
that internal struggle, it's something that's stopping me to be happy fully. So.
It's interesting. I started my mortgage broking business 20 years ago in 2005, and the same kind of drive was, it wasn't like writing mortgages and dealing with banks, etc., and conveyances was not my heart fire. But what I had cracked was how to invest in property, and I really wanted everyday Australians to learn how to do that. And the first thing was to have the structure and have the vision of what they really wanted, rather than just buying anything. And so I can really relate to being of service, and having those kind of big wins with your clients when they have that that breakthrough, or they get to that financial security position, and that you're like, I was a cog in the wheel for that, and,
Yeah.
and being part of it. But you also then have started creating this business that every time I see you, you light on fire. We've played some of the games together. So the board game or the game business, take me through that. Is that because this just seems to me like this just lights you up, and I'm interested what that feels like and how different it is.
So it was not planned. Not at all. It happened because one of our family members had cancer and we wanted to do something as a family. So we said, why don't we create a board game? So it all started from one idea. And my son said, oh, I want a ninja game. So that's how we created a ninja game. And then through the process, I learned so much about um, creating a game, manufacturing, fulfillment. I did not know any of that as a financial planner or, business consultant. It was all about professional services and digital product and online coaching. So I didn't have to manufacture any physical stuff. So it was all new learnings. And then I fell in love with how fun it is to visualize and play, and also it creates a huge, massive impact and inspiration for people. So the reason why we love board game is we get to connect with people, we interact, which we enjoy doing. When in middle of COVID, we were home and we just play games. And also it connects people. That's one thing I love about physical board games instead of video games, online games. And also it teaches you stuff. And that's where my passion is: business and education and teaching people new things. And, it's all, me being a financial planner, it's about structures and setting up, structures and coming up with logical steps. And board game is all about that. Knowing the rule, what you have to do to win, and then tick off all the winning conditions and steps to win. So that's the reason why I love it. And adding my passion for business, turning books or, business books to games is just next level. And that's what I feel. This is why I love doing this.
We played, it's called That's Business.
It's just business.
It's just business. And it's kind of like the Dragon's Den, it's like Shark Tank, it's like The Apprentice, it's like everything's thrown in there. But what I really loved about it, I think just recently, there had been a number of economic kind of announcements that could affect people's financial beings, etc. And what I loved is how you pulled out the cards and went, okay, so what's the assets? So do you want to just talk me through that? Because I think having something tangible that it seems like it's a game that sits somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, how do I apply this to my life? Like, I thought that was genius.
So this is a game. It's a prototype still. We haven't manufactured yet because of Trump tariffs and all that stuff is happening. There's so much uncertainty. And in the game, we have different type of games, type of cards. So some are asset cards, which is smart marketing that you can do to build up your business and grow and scale. But also there is a negligence that, card. This one is unpaid supplier invoice or product liability lawsuit.
Or dodgy partner.
Yeah, exactly. That, there's a lot that happens in business, something good, something bad. So I put everything in this game. It's just business game. And we created this game because we wanted to teach our kids how to start a business and grow it to be $10 million company. So in this game, I had a lot of crisis cards, which I think you are talking about. And the crisis card, hold on, let me find it. I'm keep talking, but I'm just going through the cards.
And I think the interesting thing here, right? So I've got, in my group coaching, I have 2 tracks for wealth, because as you said before, the conditions that most people have is, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. I'm like, well, if I can get rid of the conditions, get you money through business or property investing, and give you the time and the efficiencies through AIs and other tools, then let's go God mode and get you onto your heart's fire of what you really want to create. What struck me when I was reflecting on the game was how great it would be to actually coach around some of these scenarios. Like, well, how would you deal with this situation? And what are the assets that you have, and what are the things that you could pull out? And I think that kind of, and if it was a crisis like this, whatever it is, a financial or natural or whatever, physical.
So in the game, I have a political unrest and government shutdown, supply chain disruption, and AI making product obsolete. Yeah. So all these things are happening right now. right? With the Trump tariff and everyone's, freaking out. And so I put up all the different kinds of asset cards and scheme cards. And they are, well, webinar marketing, affiliate marketing, influencer campaigns, strategic alliances, podcast outreach, licensing, market research, cross promotion, advertising campaigns, social media launches, knowledge sharing programs, community outreach
All these
programs,
things that are not
all these things that
just
you can do in business.
yeah.
So I use this as game as well as resources in business to, overcome challenges. And this is fantastic because we quite often use it. And my husband line them up. It's like this happened, this happened, this happened. So
Yeah.
now I'm going through all the cards with my business partner to come up with new ideas.
Yeah,
So,
that is great. What a great and what a great way to actually facilitate conversations with your business partner too. But I want to come back because I love what you're doing. And when I hear you talk about the cards and the game, and you just made a staffy, was
Oh
it?
yeah, showbiz sales, stuffy
Yeah,
version.
based on your dog,
Yeah.
like a card game. Like this, it feels like you are now doing your purpose. Like you're creating, you're in the business books and things, and you're turning books into games and taking people's IP and dragging it out of them and helping them create their own, thing. What's it feel like to be in a position that you are actually kind of living the daily dream? You're waking up and like this is what you want to do.
It is fun. It is fun. Um, when you're having fun, it just flies.
Mm,
You get in the flow.
mm,
And I think that's the key. That's the key um to to keep creating. Like, creative space is such a, important place that you have to be free to create.
yeah.
And that's a huge difference from being a financial planner to
Mm,
this is just I'm free to create whatever I want to create.
mm,
And then such a freedom and relief to just express myself.
mm.
And it is just fun. It is just fun, you know?
I love that, because I think a lot of people, they put, and you probably saw this in your business, they put their happiness and fun down the line. When I retire,
Mm,
I will then do the big trip. I
mm,
will then
mm,
do this. I will then
mm,
have fun. I will then be happy. And, it's like that, big elephant in the room. You work for 40 years to
mm,
retire on 40% of what you earned, and it's just, it's, it seems so fruitless. And especially when you hear about people who then,
mm,
finish work and then they're dead, or, some tragedy, the health prevents them doing things.
mm, mm,
And I
mm,
think that just that sense, and what I'm kind of exploring here is, how do you kind of go, this doesn't feel right? And I guess one of the questions is, does it feel like fun? Like, do you wake up every morning going, yay, I can't wait to, do what you're going to do? And I think there's also then there is that awakening, and how you go to the path of what allows you to kind of work out what your thing is, and then you have to activate it, and you have to keep on the treadmill of being focused and being present. And I just want to talk to you about that, because if we jump ahead like maybe 20 chapters in my book to the activation. I know that you shared recently a morning activation that you have. And I just want to speak to you. How important is that to you, and how does that set you up for the day, and what is it?
So I have rules, and I was talking about flow. You
Yeah.
have to be in the flow to get stuff done. And then, but it's sometimes when you feel overwhelmed or busy, or you feel plateaued and you feel stuck, that's when you need to reassess your flow and the morning routines and whole structure that you have for your day. What I have is non-negotiables. Wake up at 5, so I sleep at 9:30. So routine start from in the evening, nighttime, not in the morning. Nighttime I start. So make sure that I go to bed, and then so I can wake up 5. And then I have this morning routine for 30 minutes for personal care, which is tongue cleaning, oil pulling, my detox drink, all that stuff. But I have a rule that no input before output. So I do not touch phone to scroll or anything like that. I used to give myself an excuse. Hey, no, 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 I'm just watching an inspirational YouTube.
Yeah.
But no, I said, okay, no input before output. So one of the first thing I do is sit down, or after all the things, I sit down and then write my journal.
Yeah.
People used to say, hey, write a journal, write whatever comes to your head. But I need a structure. So I
Very
have,
structured. You know, structure
yes,
leads to success.
yes,
Has integrity, right? You know what you're
yeah,
going to.
yeah, exactly. So I have this one type of diary that I use. It has questions to set your day right. So I write that down for 15 minutes. 5:30 to 5:45 is all about writing that and then scheduling my day, planning my day. I know what I have to achieve, what I have to do, who I don't have who I have to be, and then potential challenges that I might face and how to overcome that. And all that stuff, I write that down.
Yeah.
And then from 9:45 till maybe 5:45 till 7-ish, output. I write. I sit down and then I tell the universe. Every morning is a trusting exercise for me. I have no idea what to write, right? I sit down, I say to my universe, what is it that I have to write today? And then I write every day. I write for about an hour, post it on social media. That's Monday to Friday, non-negotiable. And then in the morning, I know that I have a team meetings, I have to do a team prep, and I have to do a deep work. So most of the time, my work finishes by 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the rest of the day is for me to have time for myself and my kids and family. So, and I used to feel guilty about after 3:30, after our kids come home from school, I didn't work because I used to work.
Yeah.
But now I don't. I spend time with my kids and I felt a little bit guilty about that. But I said, no, no, no. I set up my day in a way that I can spend time with my kids and be there for them, to cook them nice meals, take them to, ninja classes or whatever they're doing. I'm there for them.
Yeah.
And it is okay to take that time for my family.
Isn't
So,
it interesting that we have that guilt? And if I think about guilt, guilt is not an internal thing that you do to yourself. It's always because you're comparing yourself against someone else's judgment or
yeah,
expectation
yeah.
or what they see. And it's interesting, I was thinking about this just the other day. On my business card, my mortgage business card, I used to say, available 7 days a week. And, it was like 24/7, I'm going to be that mortgage broker. I'm never going to let anyone down. And when I was pregnant with my son, he was overdue. And by the time I went, by the time I had him, I'd actually organized to take some of my mortgage clients to an economic update on like the industry economic update. And so Max was 10 days old. And I remember jumping in the car with my husband and we put Max in the back seat. And I said to him, how hard could it be to learn how to express breast milk? I'll do it on the way so that you can feed Max while I'm at this conference. And I'm in the front of this car. And obviously it's not that easy. Like, don't learn how to do it on a 40-minute drive into the center of Sydney. But which I did. And I was so worried that my clients would be let down, and I felt guilty that I would let them down. So I went back to work after 10 days. And obviously my body was still recovering. I had a new baby, I was an older mother. And so, I'd had established a very long period of time of how I did things. But looking back on it, it wasn't until like 4 or 5 years later, so many of my clients went, "Oh, we just thought you were mad." And I was thinking, isn't that mad? I gave up like this precious time with my son, and
Yep,
I
yep, yep.
was working around the clock because I didn't
Mm,
want to let other people down. I felt
yep,
guilty for that.
yep,
And then
yep,
at the same time, I felt guilty for not being with my son.
yep.
And so it is interesting though, this when you lose the guilt,
Mm,
it's I think it's because do become self-referential. You're like, what's important to me? And
mm,
how am I setting up my life to be able to do what's important to me? And
mm.
exactly what you do. You get up early, you do what you have to do. And it's just like, this is just the way that you plan your day.
Yep, yep. So definitely it's about comparing yourself and then creating an unseen, expectation from people. Because
Mm,
when I wanted to sell my companies, I feel guilty. Oh, what my clients gonna think of me? Are they
mm,
gonna be okay? You
mm,
know? So, but you have to realize my life. It's my life. It's not, I'm not living client's life. It's just my life. What do I want to create? And
mm,
then one way or another, they are okay. I found a new financial planner to take over. Everything was fine. But
mm,
it's just the internal conflict. And also, okay, I have been a financial planner for such a long time. Who am I now?
mm.
Without the
Your
label, you
identity.
feel
Yeah.
like, it's like, am I a mother now? But am I? It just a whole thing of
I
internal
guess that
dialogue that
when you're
starts as
doing
well.
the entry card into
Yeah,
Australia, they say, "What's your job?" And
yeah, yeah.
I just flew back from Bali and I was like, hmm, been a
Yeah.
mortgage broker for the last 20 years, but really, is that how I
Yeah.
identify these
Yeah.
days?
I know.
And I think I put down success coach. And I thought, oh, I hope someone asks me what that means. But
Yeah.
it is interesting. I think this has been really valuable for my research because being the positive expectation person, I'm looking for the positive answers, but I think there also needs to be a conversation about what does
Mm.
hold you back, that guilt. And it
Yep.
can be guilt. I was just speaking to a client yesterday, and it was so funny because she contacted me to do a deal review on a property, and then she changed her mind and said no, she wanted to do a financial review
Mm.
on her budget, etc. And then the day of the call, because we just had this hour, I'm like, whatever you want to do, I'm here for you. She said, actually, no, I want to do an intuitive clarity call about what's holding me
Oh,
back. Why are these things going wrong?
yeah.
Interesting, because we stepped into that experience and I could find 10 examples of 5 steps that she did every single
Mm,
time something went
mm,
wrong, and the story that she was telling herself and how that went back. And a lot of it went back to an experience of guilt and shame for leaving
mm,
or being more successful than the family. And so it's
mm,
interesting and being able to see that now with the awareness. I'm getting messages from her today going, oh my God, this has changed everything. I can see it now.
mm,
But we
mm,
don't
mm,
see these things. And this guilt or this shame or this
mm,
responsibility, especially when you choose a different path to your family.
mm,
And
mm,
I
mm.
imagine for the Japanese community that you've,
Yep.
served for so many years and been part of, that first generation, they've had to leave home for economic prosperity. So there's almost an expectation that their life has to be better for them as well.
Mm, mm, definitely, definitely. I think that part of, you know, guilt comes from also from having a different, for me, it was frustration came from I had an expectation that I wanted to work like I before.
Mm,
So after having kids, it's just not the case. But I still had a image of success as, oh, I could work freely, I can get into the zone, no one will disturb me, I can get anything done.
yeah,
That was just success before. And then things changed and I need to have a live call. And then my kids didn't go to sleep. It's like 9 o'clock and they're supposed to sleep at 7. And tonight they are not sleeping. I'm so frustrated. It's like, and
yeah,
then, but I had this expectation that, my work, my success, my happiness was this.
mm,
But that image had to change to match what's happening in that time. So having little kids is different from having teenager son, having old parents is different from, you experiencing internal or family or, more of a health issues. Things change in life. That each milestones and, major events happening, you have to adjust that expectations for yourself and what success or happiness mean to you then. So
Yeah.
when
And
I, yeah,
sorry,
so when I realized that, that made me feel, oh, good. So the acceptance came to me. It's like, oh, this is okay. This is good. Let's enjoy this now. Before I was rushing to do things. I have to tick off all the stuff and I want to get stuff done. But now I give myself that space and love that to enjoy the time with my kids. And it's okay to be slow and it's okay to take time for yourself and nurture yourself. And it just, became more softer and created a space for me that also allowed me to be creative as well.
So, just a quick message. I hope you're enjoying this podcast bonus session. Now, if you have heard this interview, then you're probably sitting in there going, what is this all about? Well, this is all about my Exit the Matrix experiment. Now, I decided to write a book because I'm really interested in how do we go from the existence that we have now to exiting the matrix and living with intention from our hearts, following our heart's desires, but also creating abundance in all areas of our lives. And hence, whilst I've been researching this book, I thought, this is a really solitary journey. I want people to come on this journey with me. And hence, I've got this very special group. Now, come and join me. The first month for founders is free. And if you decide to stay, fantastic. So what I'm doing is I'm interviewing incredible people. I'm getting insights about what's this awakening that people are getting? What's this the exit the matrix kind of sliding door moment for them? Now, I've obviously run this podcast for over a year now, and I have more than 30 stories, but I'm also interested in those people who are in this transformational space, who are actually not just awakening themselves, and they're awakening others. What is the mechanism? As Bashar talks about it, it's the permission slip. Are they going through astrology or meditation or yoga or breath work? Are they just going within and getting a sense of what's really going on? So that's what all the Exit the Matrix experience is about. I'm going to let you get back to the interview, but if you want to join me, go to exitthematrix.today/ETM with me, which stands for Exit the Matrix with me. So that's exitthematrix.today/ETM with me. Sign up. I'd love for you to come along. I'm creating courses. There's currently courses in there around 4D gratitude. There's more courses to come. I'm creating custom GPTs on how you can exit the matrix and helping you uncover what lies beneath your subconscious and holding you back, and also other custom GPTs that I'm sure you're going to love. And most of the speakers are actually really motivating me. So I'm creating courses, I'm creating ebooks, I'm creating experiments you can try, I'm creating tools that you can use, and I'm also writing a book. So at some stage, I'll get to writing the book. At this moment, it's just all about the research. And I hope you choose to join me because I'm really excited about this experiment. So I'll get back to the interview now. Enjoy yourself. And as always, here's to your success.
I love what you said about your morning routine. I often, I think, oh gosh, I've been with my husband for 25 years and he introduced me to the concept of not having an alarm clock. So we probably use an alarm clock twice a year when we're flying somewhere,
Yeah.
but the rest of the time we don't. And I love that kind of waking up when your body wants you to wake up. And so usually wake up between 5:30 and 6. And I have to say, the first thing I do is I grab my phone, but I grab it to turn on my vagus nerve stimulator to actually get me into the parasympathetic. And as I'm listening to this beautiful music and I've got this vibration that's just like, keeping me calm so we don't have that cortisol spike when we wake up, I have a practice similar to you. I do 3 things I'm grateful for and just feel into the emotion of that. And the 4th one is part of this 4D gratitude experiment. So I take something from the future and I'm thankful for something that hasn't happened yet. And then I set one thing that I have to do for the day. And then I set an intention for the day or a word for the day that is going to, maybe today I'm creative or I'm a doer or, I'm open to opportunities or whatever that is. And so that kind of sets me up. And then I have 10 of my orientation choices of what I want to create in life. And it's interesting, one of those comes to me now talking to you because it's around boundaries and it feels so indulgent. It doesn't feel selfish, but it feels indulgent because the choice is, I set boundaries for the greater good of myself and what I want to create. And it's interesting that during the day when there's this boundary creep where I'm trying to be more of service or I'm turning up in a way that's, taking power away from people often because I'm like, oh, I can do that for you. It gives me a chance to stop. And I think, what you're talking about, the way that you orientate for the day and then, what you do is really inspires me because it's interesting. I'm interested in people I speak to going further is just seeing if they have this structure because it holds us. It holds us. And, we have this almost positive orientation of expectations of what's to be accomplished, but we're open to how, like you said, universe, what am I going to write about today? You're open to things. You don't need to know how it's all going to play out. And I think that at the end of the day, I sit down and in the same book, I write down what I want to retain in my brain as a memory that will be put in place and what I want to let go of. And sometimes I rarely watch the news, but if I walk past the TV that's on, the news is on, my husband's watching it, there's nothing nice on the news, let's be honest. There's no good news on the news. And there's often the images and I'm like, I have to get that out of my head because I know that it's just going to keep regurgitating in there. And so I think this, and then I, rate myself on nourishing and connecting with others and movement and relaxation and sleep. So I do, and then I have a happiness score for the day. And I think what that allows me to do is just get everything out. So do you have an end of day? You said you kind of get your routines out. What do you do at the end of the day?
So in the same journal, the other side is all about,
Yeah.
what I'm grateful for and things that, I handled well, things I could have improved. And it also talks about intentions and clarities and my why, my energy levels. I review. And then quite often I didn't know something about myself until I sit down and review the whole week. It's like, oh, wow, this week I had energy here, but I didn't have energy here. What happened there? And then once I realized, so, okay, that was missing or this was happening. So I have more clarity about my body, my mind, as well as, also celebrating the things that I achieved. Quite often you don't do that. You just get it done and you move on and, so.
Yeah, and I think, the gratitude gives you an orientation of looking for things to be grateful for during the day. But also what you're saying is, where are the opportunities for improvement? Also say it's okay not to be perfect, but then it sets something for the next day to go, well, I could have improved something here. So you're always on that path and it's gentle. It's a gentle practice, isn't it?
Oh, yes. My dad does this for a long time. He has this diary and my mom laughs at him, but he is a routine person. Every morning he goes out for a walk. He cleans the house, he set up the breakfast, wake my mom up, he does this, he does dishes, and this is his morning routine. In the night before he sleeps, he writes down what, the weather and what he ate and what he did and, things that he was grateful for and then things that he could improve. He has done it many, many years. So I've seen him and I saw his stacks of books, he has written for so many years. I think that makes it, I think aware, and I think that's what's missing as well. Because you just do things automatic, and if you stop and assess, why am I doing this? Oh, is that because you feel guilty? Interesting. That little awareness can stop you. It's like, okay, well, I decided not to do that, or I choose to do this, but this is my boundary.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you have to step out of yourself to see that from, outside of yourself, to really be aware of the things that you are feeling, things that you're thinking, the things that you're doing, but why are you doing it? And
Yeah.
when you have that one little bit of awareness, you have control over yourself. Because quite often you are a little piece in a movie doing stuff, and you are just playing a role as just you, or, as a character. Character is scripted. They just doing stuff. But when you actually start taking control as a character, but yourself, I feel I have better result because I'm in tune of what I'm thinking and what I'm doing and what I'm feeling. Once you have this alignment, makes it so strong and congruent that it's just so powerful, and you can get stuff done.
Yeah.
So to hold that structure, hold that alignment is a structure, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's intentional conscious living, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
Because I think a lot of what I heard you say essentially is a lot of life is unconscious. And I think I read something recently that said by the time you're 35, 80% of all your habits are created. You brush your teeth the same way, you do everything the same way, you get up, you have a drink of water, you go to the toilet, you brush your teeth, you have a shower, then you have your breakfast. Like everything you do is so habitual, and it is an unconscious, and to some degree we want to be able to drive unconsciously, not have to think, brake, clutch, whatever. But I think we have relinquished that consciousness and that awareness, and like you say, step out of it and reflect and go, how am I turning up? And actually, I had a situation yesterday where I had a meeting from 11:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. With a group, and then I had another meeting at 5:30 a.m. And I was saying to my husband, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And he said, does it make you happy? Like, is this important? And I was like, actually, no, it's just an expected. I've been invited, I've expected to be there, but it's not going to make my life better, and it's not going to change things. So I got to have a choice. I was like, I'm going to do the late night meeting, and if I'm awake at 5:30, I'll do that one. If not, yeah, whatever. And I think it's, once again, it's like that boundaries. It's like it's boundary creep. It's like, well, you got invited, you have to turn up. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to have like 3 hours sleep, and that's not functional. So I think I really love what you're saying, because it is that very conscious awareness. And I did something recently, which I think I might be able to create a course for this group in, or a training or something. But I grabbed 2 years of the transcripts of all of the conversations I'd had with my coach. And I put them into notebook.lm, the Google tool. And I said, and now I can interview it. I was like, oh, talk about how far I've come. So you know how you're saying you look back on your diary and you're like, why didn't I have enough energy there? What's happening? So maybe what I can do is I can create a morning and evening kind of structure for people, and show them how they could put it into that, because it gives incredible insights. And with Notebook LM, as of middle of April, they've just introduced a whole new feature that's mind mapping. And I asked it to mind map my development over the last 2 years. And I've got like, oh, here it is in your health, and here's your relationships, and business, and here's, contribution to the world. So and then the breakdown underneath, and then the linking to the actual conversation, so I can review it. So I think that's the next level, really, is what you're saying, is actually analyzing the information.
So definitely aware and analyze
Mm.
and action. 3 A's, definitely. Yeah. Well, because first thing really is awareness. Awareness will give you the insights of what's working, what's not working, why it's not working, how you're feeling, is this making you happy, all the important things. If you're not aware, you are just driven by other stuff in the life. But, so definitely the conscious living awareness, that is a baseline of what has to happen. But then having awareness on its own is not enough. You just have to have, okay, so this is what it is. Then what do we have to do? How do we improve, or how do we solve this? So that is analyzing part of it. So, those elements stuck together, working together, I think it's very powerful.
Good structure. It's interesting. I was looking at my grandmother's diary, and she had, had a big family. She's from a big family, big country farm kind of family, and I remember reading through it, and she was talking about something about, the sheep they mustered, and it was a very big day. And she's like, oh, and I got 3 loads of washing done. Oh, Bill was born yesterday, and that was one of her children. What?
Yeah.
And there was that kind of the when we have that kind of ancestral, like those hard workers, we kind of take that on, and that's kind of like the default. It's like, get on with it, and this is toughen up. This is what life's like. And as much as I can look at that and with comedy going, oh my God, I can refer it to me going, oh, I've just had this baby and I'm trying to,
Yeah, right.
milk whilst I'm, learning how to do this 10 days after it's born. And I think we do kind of carry these things. So that awareness is important. And I want to just finally talk to you about, because I know that your hour of writing. Now, I usually do that in bed on Sunday mornings. I just get inspiration and go, what's going on? And I never know what's going to happen or where it's going to come from. I'd love to, what do you call that? Like, what is that for you? Do you just set an intention that you're going to write something meaningful for your community, or do you just sit there and go for it?
So I think well, a while ago, I think people call it personal branding, and I call it being authentic. And quite often I see people say, hey, I was so, much in trouble. I was depressed. I did this, but I did that. It's like, that's great. I see so many of that.
Yeah.
But I want to see when you're in the middle of it, and I want to see the transformation. And what I'm sharing is my thoughts and struggles and thinking and the things that I'm discovering.
Yeah.
So I'm just sharing what's happening in my head and what's my life.
Yeah.
So just me being authentic and sharing.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do this. I this year I set myself a goal, and said to Johan as well. I said, I want to be a thought leader. And then he laughed at me. It's like every time I say something profound, he laughs at me. And it's like, I know, it's so funny, isn't it? But I think everybody has a voice. Everybody has these meaningful things happening, and they need to just stop and give yourself time to, get the learning and analyze it. And then, you forget. So I write it down. So that's what I'm doing of this hour of writing, and it makes it super, super fun. I surprise with myself. It's like, wow, I didn't know that I was thinking this. And I said, oh, this is such a good insight. I should remember this. And, but that's just part of me, just thinking, what I'm feeling, what is my challenge, what things that I discovered. I'm just sharing. That's what it is. And I think that's a key to have a business as well, that people started to see fakes, and then people use AI, and then you can tell, oh, that's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
You see an ad, it's like, oh yeah, that's ChatGPT. Oh yeah, that's AI generated graphics. You can tell that, right?
Yeah.
So when you are using AI or just being fake, people feel that now. People are smart now, right? So I think being you, being yourself, being authentic is the key in the new era.
Yeah.
And not
Agree.
only looking good, but just sharing the whole thing
Mm,
makes you unique. And that is a differentiator in business, because
mm,
people buy from you.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've got one of your posts up here because I really love this, because I think it talks to this kind of awareness stage where we are at the moment. And you said there are human patterns in a crisis. And
Mm.
some freeze, there's fight or flight kicks in, some freeze and some pivot fast. And we saw that in COVID, and I suspect we're seeing that now too. Some search for meaning spikes like spirituality, mental health, and self-help. People reassess their lives, values, and identities. And I think even more so, we seem
Yep.
to be, there's this, because when I saw you call this out, I was like, I talk to property clients, I talk to mortgage clients, I talk to business clients, I talk to people in the AI space, and there seems to be this underlying anticipation and, unease,
Mm.
more than I've ever seen before. We've had global, global shutdowns and breakdowns and financial crises and all of these things that seem to have impact people's lives over the last, 20, 30 years. But there seems to be something that people can't quite put their finger on at the moment. There's wars in different countries, and there's economic, requirements and, tariffs and things in other countries that may or may not affect us and may or may not, have changes. But people can't quite put their finger on this at the moment. So when you called this out, I was like, isn't that interesting? Because you start seeing those kind of changes. And then you said innovation explodes. People invent new ways to connect, earn, entertain, and express themselves. And if I think of AI, I'm in so many, I've been in mastermind groups with AI for over 2.5 years. And I wonder where these people were beforehand.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
What were you doing before this? Like, everyone seems to be well, obviously when you're in the space, everyone around you is in the space, but there seems to be so many people who this has now become their thing in their career. And I'm like, where have they been hiding? Have they been librarians, or have they been like
Yeah. Yeah.
computer? And so I love this idea of this innovation that you talk to. And then this is what I really am interested in. This tribalism rises. Mask
Mm.
versus no mask, vax
Mm.
versus anti-vax, mistrust in governments and media intensifies. So when things get tough, we ask ourselves, what can we do? Talk to me about this tribalism. What are you seeing at the moment? Like,
Oh, paralyzes, right? It's like a left and right, and pro-Trump, and all that stuff. And then you want to belong, you want to have opinions, but it's just things that
polarizing people.
yeah, polarizing people, and then actually takes you away from what's important. And I
Mm,
remember 4 years ago, and it does not affect me, but America's election, and then so
mm,
many things happening over there, and that affected me so much. And there is I don't know, it just the things that, and then masks as well. All these things just creates disturbance in your life, and
mm,
then but you feel like you have a strong opinion about that, but you don't know anything about that, but you still have a strong opinion, and then it just creates this massive emotion around it.
mm,
And it it's when you're having a happy life and everything is going good, you don't even look at it. But when things are tough and feeling this uncertainty and
Challenged or
you're
fear.
challenged, and then you started to have these opinions and you started to fight, and then it just creates anger or frustration or things. It's like it gets you more frustrated. And then it's interesting, that's just human behavior. All these things search for meanings and, spirituality or, things that they can focus on. People take on different take when these things happened. And we saw it only a few years ago in COVID. A lot of people had strong opinion about this and, anti-governments and anti-vax and anti-this and anti-that. I think right now, I think it's just start of this as well. The wars are happening, new tax systems in America and China, and living in Australia doesn't really affect us, but still we have these strong opinions about things that's happening, and also we worry about it, and it affects us internally. And so that's how things has been, and that's how things are happening right now. But knowing that, again, the awareness helps us to set us free from that. And all this, if you have read a book called Transurfing, it's called a pendulum. There is things that's moving, and then we are being affected by it. Right and left, right and left. And then this huge beliefs or the opinions is just all about this, good and bad, horrible and wonderful. It's all about this pendulum that affecting us. And then for us to be set free from that is just step out from that and be aware, and then do not have an emotional attachment to all these things. So that's very important as well.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was thinking about this conversation with you, and particularly this question, and I was walking to the office in preparation for the meeting, I was thinking about these things that polarized us. And I remember speaking to a lady during COVID, and her daughter was having a baby, and her daughter was, I think, in Geelong, and she was in Melbourne, and she said she's not getting vaccinated, or she wasn't being one of them wasn't being vaccinated, and it cut all family contact. It was like, that's it, they're dead to me. I was like, oh, okay. And then, I know a lot of people got really involved, as you said, in the American elections in 2024, and there was this, who are you going for? And I was thinking, none of those things really, I didn't have a strong position. I'm like, maybe I just don't care enough. Like, maybe I'm a person who kind of like doesn't care. Maybe I need to find something to care about. But what it struck me was that, and I think it was Tony Robbins that said, you can only control the things that you have control over. The rest of it, you have no control. Like, don't worry about it. And that really struck me at the time. And I was just like, if I can't control something, I can set up a reaction to it, and I can minimize impact. But if I can't control it, then it's out of my realms. And I'm talking to clients all the time, they're so worked up over someone like Trump, for instance. And they're so upset about it, and they're watching and I'm like, you are spending so much of your energy on this person. But what it also made me think, and I'm interested in your thoughts and how you've seen this maybe play out as well, is that when we are confronted with an opposite opinion to what something is that we really think is important, and it is so very different to our opinion, I think there's a degree of, if we are open to listening to the other opinion, it actually sets us up with a fear situation, because if we do look at a different situation, or situation in a different way, and reconsider our position, there's almost this acceptance that we've been living a lie for the last
Mm,
10, 20, 30 years, or 10 months or whatever it is, but we've stood so sternly
mm,
for this thing,
mm,
and then we see it crumble. And
mm.
I think sometimes people double down and fight for something they don't really believe in, because the alternative, if there is them going, I've been wrong all my life. And I think that's challenging. Have you got anything you can contribute to that? Have you seen?
Well, so recently in Japan, the biggest entertainment company or the TV stations been crumbling down, and all these lies and deceive and all that stuff has been, covered up, started to come out. And the things that we knew but we didn't want to talk about it or accept it, started to come out. So I think there is a huge shift that's happening. And
Mm,
still, majority of people don't want to accept it. And then that's how it has been, and that's what it is. But I think things are shifting at this moment. And then we started to accept, okay, um, maybe we've been living in lies, or
mm,
maybe we have to change. So yes, it is scary and hard to see that and then accept it.
mm,
But I think there's a huge shift that is happening at the same time as well.
yeah.
So, um, yeah, you just have to be ready. People are ready in the different times.
Be like the grass, not like the tree. Go with the wind.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
I know.
definitely.
Here's something you also talked about, the Japanese entrepreneur Kazuki Sato. He referenced in his book Douglas Adams, and it
Mhm.
said trends. First trend: anything in the world when you were born is normal.
Yep,
Anything invented between your age of 15 and 35
yep.
is exciting and revolutionary. And then anything invented after 35 is unnatural and wrong. And it really
Mm.
talks to our stages in life, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, definitely. So, you are bit different, Jane. But when I talk to AI about, older generations, they're like, "Ooh, I don't believe in that. I think that's scary, and I think that might, sabotage our, society." It just, that's how
Mm,
that's a law. It's like because they didn't grow up with it, they didn't use it, it just came out when they were adult, and it's like, oh, I'm not sure. So
yeah.
resistance. But that's where the opportunity is.
Mm,
And, you know, young people love TikTok and doing stuff. And, it's like interesting. So be open to that, young people doing stuff
that
like a bit
curious.
interesting.
I've
Yeah.
got I'm in a personal training group, and in the group there's this gentleman. He's 89. His name's
Mm,
Jerry, and he's run one of the biggest companies in Australia, and now he's retired, but only very recently. And I was talking to him about AI, and he said, I can only but hope that I can live long enough to see everything that's created with
mm,
it. And I thought, what a wonderful orientation, be
mm,
that age and going, I can't wait. And which is probably, I think, is the curiosity of entrepreneurs,
mm,
successful
mm.
people. They're like,
Yep.
bring it on. And
Yep.
okay, I've got a final question for you. You talked
Okay.
about the era of ground and now
Mhm.
the era of information and wind.
Mm,
What's the
mm.
next era?
But not for next, I don't know, thousands of years, I don't think. But um, I am not sure what's next. But we just started the wind. So we just still shifting from the, earth to wind. So I see,
Spirit?
yeah, probably next is a spirit,
Mm,
more like it just
yeah,
flowing
the
into
flow.
yeah. Yep,
Yeah, it's
I think
interesting.
so.
I think that we're talking about this era of people being uncomfortable, and since I've been speaking to you, what's sitting with me or coming
Mm,
to me is that we're talking what's the crisis, and I
mm,
think the crisis is trust, and I think it comes down to we look at images now. You and I can look at things and go, AI wrote that, that's an AI image. Most people can't because
mm,
we're pretty deep into it. But I think there's a thing about trust. It's like, can we believe the information? Is this false news? Is this made
mm,
up? Is this real? And there's that doubt. And so when you're talking about being authentic and just, living from your heart and talking your truth and talking about the good and the bad, then, that's how people can relate to you, because I mean, when I write, it's full of bad grammar and it's full of spelling mistakes. And often my mother and sister will send me DMs going, "Do you know that you spelt this wrong?" And I'm like, well, everyone knows it's not AI.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but I think you're right. I think that there's trust, and then there's this authentic, who can we trust? What can we trust now? All this information and everything's moving so quickly in this wind era. Where can we find a balance to go, I'm gonna peg myself on this? And I think the problem is that we have identified with pegging ourselves to something rather than to our heart and what we want to create. And maybe this is that transformational time where people go, if guilt is because others are judging me or I'm judging myself in reference to their expectations or shame or whatever that is, well, what if that doesn't mean anything to me? What if I just live my truth and my happiness for fun? And, if that's what we get to from the end of this, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I've had a massive shift. So when I started my business as a financial planner and I had these things, I cannot make mistakes. I have to plan, execute, be perfect. Do not make mistakes. I was just, okay, this is a rail that I'm just gonna walk middle of it, so I'm not gonna get out of this rail. And then something shifted. COVID happened. I had a COVID and I was lasted for like 6 months. And I was like, oh my God, I had this worst, time. I was like, what is the meaning of my life? And I was like, okay, I lived my life safe because I didn't want to make mistakes. And then now my life is all about experience and sharing that experience with the people.
Beautiful.
All the good, bad, ugly, whatever happened made who I am. And I embrace everything. So I want to experience that everything that this universe, my life, will offer to me. So I shifted that mindset from do not make mistakes, be perfect, and then do the right thing to experience everything. And that gave me a freedom as well. And that comes with a trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then gave you freedom at the same time.
I love that. And if I come back to you're building these games, and it's not like there's one and done. You can keep playing it and you can have different scenarios and you can win and you can lose, but it's the connection with other people and everyone having that experience, which is really kind of like the game of life, right?
Yeah.
We think there's one game. If we don't get it right where it's all over, well, we can always just reset it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that really lands with me. So thank you so much for being such an amazing person and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you.
Well, Kyoko Yoshizumi, you can contact her, I'm sure, through Facebook. And if she's writing every single day and doing this amazing kind of insights, follow her and follow what she's doing. And I happen to have one of your games, your ninja games. So I might have to work out a game or a prize that I could do to give it away to someone in the community who really loves games.
Definitely.
We're
Please
definitely
do.
waiting for the business game to come out. We might have to
Yep.
do a property one as well, so we can
Yep.
use that in coaching. I think that'd be a
Yeah.
great idea.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so very much. And for those of you who've been listening, I have taken so much away from this. I'm going to definitely be putting in some orientation, morning and evening orientation things that we should be doing, that
Fantastic.
structure. I think that's great. And the analysis of it. And then also this, not just how can we go to living from our heart, but being aware of what holds us back, the shame, the guilt or whatever, and how that awareness of that alone can actually be something that can.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, okay, well, you've helped me, added it up for extra chapters. But thank you so very
Fantastic.
much. I really appreciate your time.
Welcome, Jane. Thank you.
As always, everyone, here's to your success. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Exit the Matrix, Stories of Success. Make sure you subscribe to future episodes at www.exitthematrix.io. Until next time, here's to your success.